Did you know that according to a reputable source, there is going to be a Ninjago Christmas special? And in that special, Nadakhan was going to return and celebrate the holidays by trapping the ninja in a snow globe. Let's think about that for a second. Nadakhan trapping the ninja in a freaking snow globe. Holy cow, that is awesome. So let's turn that idea of mine into a Photoshop art piece, shall we? I love looking at surreal art with snow globes. There's just something wonderful about seeing an entirely different world within one of those things, almost as if it's a container to a different dimension. So I decided to give it a shot myself using the Ninjago aesthetic.
Elves and gingerbread people everywhere! Santa?
We are going to need some photos to pull this off. First, I got my image of Nadakhan from Skybound. I chose Nadakhan because, why the hell not? And I took pictures of my Ninjago Legacy minifigures. So we got Kai, Cole, Jay, Zane, Lloyd, Nia, Pixel, Wu, and Garmadon. All with not so pleasant expressions on their faces. What, did you think they were going to be having a nice Christmas party this year? Nuh-uh. Not when a vengeful Jin has returned. I also pulled up some of these stock images from Envato Elements to make this piece more festive. Now that we have almost everything we need, notice how I said almost everything, more on that later, let's make ourselves the most holly jolly Ninjago Photoshop piece to ever exist. To kick this party off, we got a cutout of Nadakhan looking at the lantern, nothing special, at least not yet. Next, I put in an image of a brick wall. I duplicated the image and made sure they aligned and overlapped with each other. And after I finished blending in the brick wall, I merged them together and used the respective transform key to make it more three-dimensional. Next was the tricky part, the snow globe. We just gotta make it big, but not too big that it looks unrealistic. It needs to be at the right size to fit in the ninja and the snowy background. The brick wall needs to have some stuff in it as well. I dragged in a Christmas tree and placed it behind Nadakhan. I also got a Christmas wreath to hang up on the wall. Alright, let's give Nadakhan a Santa hat as well. Do Jin celebrate Christmas in their world? I hope they do. I bet they do. Well, in my universe they do. I blended the hat onto Nadakhan's head and adjusted it to make it fit. Now it was time to work on the snow globe. This was extremely tricky since this is the first time I've done something like this, but I appreciate a challenge. I dragged in an image of some snowy trees. I used warp to make it look like it's wrapped around the snow globe. I thought it would be easier to use a circle shape around the globe and input the snow image into the sphere. I tried making the image look a little bigger to give the trapped characters more room to breathe, and I later tried the selection tool to crop out the trees. Unfortunately, the tool wasn't smart enough to differentiate the similar colors between the trees and the clouds, so I had to do it manually. After refining the edges as best I could, it looked a little better. Next, it was time to add in the aurora. I had this beautiful image of a wintry night sky with some mountains behind it. Using a layer mask on the sky tool took a while, but it worked. The night sky didn't look great, so I decided to add in a new aurora sky and a separate mountain range. I also brought in an image of a snowy foreground and blended it over the aurora sky. I decided that the glass part of the snow globe wasn't good enough, so I decided to replace the glass ball with another glass ball. This one looked much better, since it had a much thinner edge to it. I got a new layer of the snowy foreground and warped the hill of trees to give off the illusion that this is an entirely new dimension. And with that, I used the pen tool to crop out the hill and used the refine edge tool to soften the edges of the trees. After blending the images into the snow globe, I added an image of the ice castle from the Never Realm as a nice little Easter egg. I decided to take a break from the snow globe and give shadows and highlights to Nadakhan and the Christmas decorations behind him. Next was time to add in the ninja. I had an image of Jay who did not have his Lego Ninjago movie hair, but I improvised. I took an image of his hair from the internet and then smacked it onto his head. I blended it with the rest of his body and called it good for now.
Nice.
For some of the ninja, the quality of the images weren't all that great, so I used the camera raw filter tool to adjust their exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, detail, and clarity to make them look better. Now that we got all the ninja accounted for in the snow globe, it was time for the real magic to happen. I added shadows and highlights to the mountains, hills, the castle, and the snow ground to match the dark, cold environment that the aurora background was giving. The same was said for the ninja. For each of them, I gave them color balance, an exposure layer, and a hue and saturation layer to match the light coming from the sky. Since the aurora was meant to glow, I used a color layer set to linear dodge add and gave it the glowing effect. I applied the same shadows and highlights to the base of the snow globe. Since Nadakhan was close to the snow globe, I did the same thing for him. The highlight was a bit too strong on his skin, but I changed that later. The brick wall, the Christmas tree, and the wreath were also given the same color balance adjustment to match the effect that the snow globe was emanating. Next was time to add shadows under the ninja's feet since they looked weird as hell just floating on top of that snow. Using an exposure layer to give a shadowy effect did the trick. I next added in a string of Christmas lights. I used warp to give them an arc and copied the image twice. I later gave them a drop shadow for obvious reasons. We gotta make this look as realistic as possible. Next was time to make the Christmas lights glow. I used solid colors of red, green, and blue, set them each to linear dodge add, and with a soft brush, I made them shine. Since the lights were glowing, it made sense to give the tree some highlights. The same was said for the wreath, the brick wall, and the back of Nadakhan's hat. I was not a fan of how a part of Wu's beard was lighter than the rest of his body, so I tried making it darker. Now just watch and observe me slowly losing my mind trying to make it look better.
Well, that was f***ing hideous.
I eventually gave up on the beard and just moved on to adding the snow layer to the globe. Warping the outside area of the globe just did the trick. Next, I added a highlight to the edges of the distant mountains. And speaking of distance, I thought it would be cool to add a field blur to the different layers of the globe. Basically, the farther away objects are from the ninja, the blurrier they would be. This just gave off the illusion that this is an entirely different world trapped in the snow globe. Nadakhan doesn't look happy enough. He just trapped the ninja in a freezing cold snow globe. This is a time to celebrate. So, let's change that. I created a duplicate layer of his mouth and used the warp tool to give him that iconic smirk he makes in the show. And there, now he looks happier. Let's add some light onto the Christmas tree. I subtracted the shadow exposure layer and made the Christmas lights and the highlights from the Christmas strings above brighter. I tried adding a Merry Whipmas text onto the snow globe base. It doesn't look too good, but I'll use it for something later. There's not enough action going on in the snow globe. It's just the ninjas standing there freezing their butts off. So I fixed that by adding an image of Misfortune's keep in the background. I also added a large Christmas tree and set it to linear dodge add and made it look mystical. This is kind of based off of the way Phase Runner does his majestic artwork. Usually just having like a simple subject like a tree or a building or a castle and just making it glow. After blurring it into the background behind the mountains, I put a yellow overlay solid color and made it glow enormously tall and bright. I added in Santa's sleigh and his band of reindeer since they're chasing Misfortune's keep for stealing Christmas or something. Maybe the Grinch is the one piloting the ship. I gave both Misfortune's keep and the reindeer a motion blur to make it look like they're actually moving along in the background instead of just standing there. I'm not satisfied with this brick wall, so let's add some more decorations. I got an image of a stylized wooden plank, copied it, and nailed it along the wall. Next, I dragged in a shelf and placed it behind Nadakhan. I took an image of Nadakhan's love, Dalara, and put it into a stylized portrait. There we go. After that, I put the Dalara portrait onto the shelf. I used the drop shadow layer on the shelf as well as the portrait of Delara. After doing some blending on the planks, it's time to decorate them. Remember the Merry Whipmas text? Well, now I have a use for it. I took that text, changed it to a different font, and blended it on... I took that chat... Hang on, water break. Alright, as I was saying, I took that text, changed the font, and blended it onto the wood. I added more text to the more open areas of it as well. There's Go Ninjago and Bring on the Pirates. I also added some Christmas bells and hung them underneath the Go Ninjago wood. You know what a cool little Easter egg is as well? Adding the Sky Pirate symbol onto this area of wood. Overlay, desaturation, and the blend if tool made it look like it was painted on there. I decided to add some footprints onto the snow. It's not like the ninja would be standing there the whole time. I used the rectangular tool to make some shapes as footprints. I also used the bevel and emboss tools to make them look like they're embedded in the snow. I also painted some lines and put them behind Misfortune's cape and the reindeer to further emphasize that they're moving in the sky. I added a Christmas post lamp behind Zane and took out some of the shadows and made it glow. Since that glowing lamppost is behind Zane, I gave him a highlight as well. I also added a string of Christmas lights and wrapped it around the base of the globe. After some colors, some highlights, it does not look great, so I scrapped that idea. I used some field blurs to separate the foreground from the background of the overall image. I also added my Night Fury Studios signature and blended it around the base of the globe, and it looked a lot better. Usually, the last thing to do is to take this beauty to the camera raw filter, and you'd think we'd be done, but no. Off camera, I thought this wasn't filled with enough Christmassy stuff, so I decided to add more elements. So we got Nadakhan about to enjoy his gingerbread cookie. Then we have Zane and Lloyd rocking their Santa hats. Kai has a ball of fire on his hand to try and keep everyone warm in the snow globe dimension. And behind him, Cole is holding a glass of candy canes, and I even added Crag the Yeti behind him. Next is Jay with his orange scarf from the Lego Ninjago movie. Wu is over there enjoying a Coca-Cola bottle, and Garminon's got a string of Christmas lights wrapped around his helmet. I also turned the blue accents from Nia's tunic green to match the Christmas festivities, and Pixel is over there enjoying her jar of peppermints. And with all that, I think we are done with this Christmas edit. I'm really happy at how this turned out. I don't know about you, but if they decided to make a Christmas special, I would totally watch it if it was based around this concept. Anyway, that's it for today. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, follow me on my social media platforms, and be sure to check out my merch store. As always, I will see you in the next video. Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy New Year. See you all in 2024.